So, it was the mid-1970s and a young lad had just discovered all the presents supposed to be coming from Santa hiding in his parents' wardrobe. Conclusion? Santa does not exist. What to do about it? Well, tell all the other kids at church on Sunday, obviously. Outcome? Lots of crying children and very annoyed parents. So yep, that was me as an undiagnosed autistic child. Hi, I'm Phil and I'm an autistic older adult. As the year fast comes to an end, I wanted to make one last video and have a brief chat about how I experience Christmas as an autistic person. The things I like and the things I struggle with. So jumping straight in, our modern world seems to deem giving and receiving presents as one of the main activities associated with Christmas. When I receive a present at Christmas, I always carefully take off the sticky tape, then carefully remove the paper and fold it for reuse next year. This might be a bit odd to some, but for me, I think it relates to several of my autistic traits. Firstly, from a sensory perspective, I can't handle the ripping of paper. Likewise, I don't like others ripping Christmas paper. I think also it's about avoiding pointless waste, but also about a routine that I've subconsciously created around this activity from early life. As a child, I got a bit stressed at opening presents. Not so much from my immediate family, as mum and dad knew what worked for me, but prezzies from extended family was often a bit stressful. Not knowing how to react, especially if it was not something I wanted. As I had limited but intense special interests as a child, space, cricket and golf mainly, I would sometimes get multiples of the same book, for example. And I remember when asked by an extended family member one Christmas whether I had that book already, going straight into fawning mode and saying that I didn't, even though I'd just been given it by someone else that day. I also get stressed when presents are distributed. I know that I typically don't buy presents, so some cash in a Christmas card instead is a bit disappointing and maybe embarrassing, and I worry that people will think that I don't care about them enough to go shopping. But going into busy shopping centres around Christmas can be an extremely overwhelming experience for an autistic person. Lots of people and noise, but also visual overstimulation with so much people movement, not to mention car parking or waiting in queues. Also, there is anxiety about buying the right gifts for people. This can take a few forms. Demand anxiety. I have to buy a gift. And decision-making anxiety. What if it's not the right gift or the wrong brand, etc. But I do like to have the experience of going to the shops at Christmas late at night when the extended Christmas hours kick in. Maybe this is more an ADHD thing in going to the shops in the middle of the night when it's dark and different. But also there are typically less people around, which is better for my autism. I do remember growing up being overwhelmed at Christmas lunch, as the food was maybe a bit different. An example here is, while I like chicken for instance, the thought of having turkey was truly overwhelming. Same for ham. I was used to ham from the supermarket deli, all pre-sliced and consistent. But ham off the bone was overwhelmingly different. Time spent at the dinner table at Christmas was also a challenge, as my immediate family rarely used to eat at the table. So I found this change in routine and eating with a bigger group of wider family a bit different. People often overeat at Christmas, but I usually significantly undereat due to all these differences. To be honest, I would rather just have a normal meal at Christmas, like a barbecue, or if it's going to be roast meat, then a roast beef, for instance, which is my safe food for roast meals. Leading up to Christmas, as a professional sound engineer, I've spent all my adult life having December as one of my busiest months, doing Christmas carols events and corporate Christmas functions. This meant I spent the Christmas lead up in work mode, doing what I do best. These events are not typically what I would go to unless I'm working, but when I am working on them, I do a great job and enjoy the work aspect. Since the pandemic, however, that work has pretty much all disappeared, as many of my contacts and regular clients have moved out of the music and event industry. So that has left an odd gap and routine change for me around Christmas time. Another thing in the lead up to Christmas is the inane Christmas music that fills the space everywhere. This is one thing that I do struggle with. The Christmas music that I am okay with, however, is traditional carols. The reason being they focus on the real reason for Christmas rather than some fat guy in a red suit or mythical flying caribou. As someone who has worked in all forms of music, I would actually prefer carols sung unaccompanied by traditional choirs to the modern renditions by popular artists. Likewise for television, Christmas often brings out all the old Christmas movies that do not resonate with me. And these Christmas programs crowd out any regular shows that I might watch, which is a disruption to routine. Although this was more of an issue before streaming was around. The upside, however, is that in Australia, Christmas means that it is the time of the year for the sport of cricket to be shown on TV, which has been one of my special interests since I was young. And even better than that is Boxing Day, when the start of the Sydney to Hobart yacht race is televised, as sailing is also one of my key special interests. The biggest downside to Christmas for me, however, is the relentless commercialism. This detracts from the true meaning of Christmas, and this upsets my autistic sense of truth and honesty and brings in the anxiety mentioned earlier in creating the ever-increasing push to spend money and buy the right gifts. It also takes away from a focus of family and makes Christmas more about stuff. Also, the huge volume of waste that this commercialism creates is at odds with my autistic influence value of caring for the environment. What about the traditions of Christmas? As an autistic person, do I like the routines that traditions bring? Well, yes and no. It's true that traditions can bring familiarity and consistency to the Christmas experience for autistic people. But I also find that if a tradition makes no sense to me, then I have no time for it. For instance, the tradition of eating roast meals on Christmas Day, because that is what generations of people have done before us, makes no sense in the Southern Hemisphere, where we celebrate Christmas in summer and temperatures can be between 30 and 40 degrees Celsius. That's around 100 Fahrenheit for those of you in North America. Likewise, the tradition of eating seafood is a red flag for my autistic eating sensitivities, and I prefer the prawns stayed in the ocean. And to be honest, I think the prawns might prefer that also. For me, the best thing about Christmas is spending time with my largely neurodivergent family. I know for many autistic people, Christmas can be challenging in having to spend a large chunk of time with people, and I certainly understand that. But for me, my family just gel in a way that I am coming to understand is in a different way to many other families. The more I learn about neurodivergence, the more I can see it through my family. Some diagnosed and some not. And I think this common thread amongst us makes the day with what might normally be an uncomfortably large group of people actually quite enjoyable. Pre-Christmas functions, however, whether work or social, can be overwhelming, as one of the key aspects of autism is difficulties with social communication. But conversely, for some autistic people, this might be one of the few times in the year when we get to connect with other people. So, as always, we can't assume all autistic people will have the same experience or needs. In fact, I heard a great quote the other day from Dr. Megan Anna Neff in the Divergent Conversations podcast. She put it so well when she said something along the lines of, "As autistic people, our souls desire connection, but our bodies need isolation." I had a Christmas catch-up with a small group of some of my oldest friends yesterday over a game of golf. Now, these people know me well and are the people I want to see, but I still had anxiety beforehand. I did have a great day, by the way. Now, I can't do a video about Christmas without at least touching on faith and religion. As mentioned earlier, our modern world views Christmas quite differently from its original intent. Christmas, or the Christmas, was first celebrated in 336 AD by the Catholic Church in Rome to celebrate the birth of Jesus, who is the Christ or Messiah in the Christian tradition, a key prophet in Islam, an avatar of the divine in Hinduism, and a great person in Buddhism. In Western society, the emphasis historically is largely on the Christian tradition. Now, I won't go into a full dissertation about Christian faith, but I will say that for me, as someone who was raised in the church, this is central to my celebration of Christmas, even though I am no longer a regular churchgoer. Again, this comes back to my autistic black and white thinking and values. Actually, the issue of faith and religion for autistic people is quite complex and deserves a whole other video, so I will try to come back to this in the future, as I know my experience here won't be consistent with all other autistic people. As mentioned, Christmas is in the summer for us, and my sensory profile hates the cold, so Christmas means the start of hot weather, which is great. This usually means a swim on Christmas Day, which is also a sensory soothing activity for me. I know lots of autistic people don't enjoy holidays as it disrupts their usual routines. For me, however, Christmas has always been a great transition into this holiday period, which is a way of escaping from the social demands of the rest of life. As a child, this meant a break from school and those demands. As an adult, it has meant a break away from work. Now, as someone who does not have a stable job, it still means a break from everyday stresses, which can also include the stresses about not having a job. Also, as my wife has some time off over the Christmas period, it means we can go and spend time together sailing and being on the water, which is a key special interest to me. So in summing up, for me, Christmas is about people rather than presents or traditions. I guess it might seem a bit odd for an autistic person to say that what they like here is spending time with people, but for me, it's about being with the people who are not only important to me, but who share many of the same neurodivergent characteristics and modes of communication. Also, the opportunity to reflect on the real meaning of Christmas and how that intersects with my personal faith and beliefs is key. Okay, that's it for now, and actually for this year as far as videos go. I want to thank everyone for watching over the last few months as I've made this tentative step into the world of content creation. I really appreciated the great comments and support from everyone, and meeting some of you virtually through doing this. Whichever tradition you might celebrate this Christmas, I really hope it brings you peace and joy. And I hope you are able to celebrate with the people who understand and value you. Or if your preference is to have a quiet time away from people, I hope that brings you respite and peace away from the chaos of the world we inhabit. I will take a bit of time off away from making videos over the coming months to spend some time outdoors hyper-focusing on my special interests of sailing and the water in general. But I hope to be back later in January with some new content. Go well and have a truly happy and blessed Christmas. See you next year.